Okay, everybody, welcome back to Dining with Diabetes. We're at week 4, which is our last one for this grouping of diabetes classes that we're doing other than our follow-up in about 3 months. So today we're going to be talking about vitamins, minerals, fiber, and putting all of the stuff that we've talked about together, because I know there's been a lot of different things and it's been throughout a whole month. So we're going to just kind of go back and revisit all that information. Again, if you're new to the class or if you're just now tuning in for the first time, my name is Olivia Ferris and I'm the Lawrence County Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences. And my co-host and my partner on this project is Mandy Broderick, and she is the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent for Lewis County. So let's go ahead and get started. See? Oh, there it goes. So just a quick review. Session 1, we talked about living well with diabetes. That was a very science-heavy lesson, if you remember. We talked about a lot of medical terms, a lot of things you need to be looking at every time you go to your doctor, things to monitor at home, etc. Session 2, we talked about carbohydrates and sweeteners. We talked about a lot of things that marketing encompasses in order to make us think we're getting different products, but actually things are more closely related than what we thought. And actually some things had carbohydrates in them that we didn't even realize just because we don't put them in that bread category, but not just bread has carbohydrates. In session 3, we talked about fats and sodiums. So we talked about what salt does to our body, unsaturated and saturated fats, all of those things. And then today is session 4, and we're going to talk about vitamins, minerals, and fiber, and then we're going to bring all of this together. Now, I want to remind you that in 3 months, so that's approximately the end of November, close to Thanksgiving time, we're going to be trying to catch up with you, and we're going to send out an email to this list of individuals, and we're going to have an evaluation link or QR code attached to that. And if you fill that out, and this is for everybody who's watching this video live, so if you're on Facebook, there are other parameters for you, which I'll be sharing, but if you're watching this in this live class, in 3 months, if you do that survey, then you will get a free diabetes cookbook. So that's completely free to you. That's just our little thank you for participating in the class and for taking our follow-up evaluation. If you're on Facebook, we will have instructions posted for you to have a chance to win one of those as well. So how did you do this week? Let's just kind of go back and reflect and talk about what we've done. So you don't have to answer all of these questions. If you want to go ahead and start typing in the chat box, if you have anything you want to say, you can go ahead and do that now and we'll read those. But I'm just going to kind of go over each of these questions, and then feel free to share if you want to, or if there's even another experience that you had that you just really want to let us know about, just go ahead and type that in the chat box now. But the questions that we have are, what things did you notice more this week as a result of our class from last week? So did you follow through on that SMART goal that you set? Were there things that you learned last week that you didn't know before? We just want to hear from you. What changes did you make this week? So did you make any changes? If you didn't, what are changes that you can make this coming week? Or did you improve upon something from a previous week? So just kind of, what are some changes over time? Here's another little pop quiz question. What fats are heart healthy? So which of the fats did we talk about are healthier for us? Again, we don't want to have a lot of these fats all the time, but if we have the choice, these are the healthier option. How much sodium is recommended daily? If anybody remembers that. Were there any challenges or successes following a heart healthy diet this week? So did anybody try to be a little more heart healthy? If so, tell us what you did. Did it work? Did you feel any different? Again, this is just over a week's time, so there might not be a huge difference, but just let us know in the chat. And did you achieve your SMART goal for this week? Or did you build up on the one from any previous week? Just let us know. Let's see here. Okay, so one of our participants, I'm doing a little better about planning out my 3 meals ahead of time so I don't overeat. Oh, that's great. Meal planning is really important, and we're actually going to talk a little bit more about meal planning today. Anybody else have anything they want to share? I paid more attention to the amount of fats and salts and different items. Great! Baked items instead of frying. Yay! These are all great, you guys. Okay. Saturated and trans fats. Sad face. That's from Mandy. Yes. So remember, we're wanting to look for those unsaturated fats, and usually those are fats found in plants. Okay. So I think I explained it either last week or the week before that if it is hard at room temperature, sitting on the counter, it's typically going to be hard inside our body, inside our arteries. Now, is that a hard and fast rule? No, but that's a really good way to kind of remember that. Okay, and just in case you're all wondering, so I kind of already answered the fats question. We want a teaspoon of salt a day or less. So remember, the teaspoon is not the big one on your ring of measuring spoons. It's the little T, it's not the big T. My slide's not wanting to change. There we go. Okay, so first we're going to talk about vitamins and minerals in vegetables and fruits. And I don't know about you all, but I know it's close to lunchtime when we're recording this, and those cucumbers and things just look really fresh and delicious. Vitamins and minerals are found especially in vegetables and fruits. It is recommended that we eat 2.5 cups of vegetables and 2 cups of fruit each day if we're eating a 2,000 calorie diet. And that's the amount of most adult women that are and less active older men. So, and the 2,000 calorie diet is the one that all of our food labels are based on. That's why when you look at a food label, it says based on the 2,000 calorie diet. So just keep that in mind. Now, while I'm talking, this is another good little plug here for our doctors and healthcare professionals. Remember that any advice we give you is just that, it's just advice. We're very knowledgeable about what minerals and nutrients and things are in fruits and vegetables, but you really need to make sure that you talk to your healthcare provider, especially if you have diabetes, before you make any kind of big changes in your diet. So it's always good to include those non-starchy vegetables, but you know, when we're looking at our fruit intake or some of the starchier things, we really need to talk to a healthcare professional. Or you know, your team of people that you work with your diabetes. So as we age, we can become more, you know, sedimentary. We kind of sit a little bit, and our caloric needs drop, but we don't always eat less food. This can be the cause of weight gain over years. The nutrition facts label that we have been reading each week uses this 2,000 calorie diet to calculate the percentage of nutrients that our food contains. The color of fruits and vegetables is really useful. Have you all ever heard of that campaign like Eat the Rainbow? And I don't mean a certain kind of candy. I'm talking about, you know, let's eat all of our different colors of fruits and vegetables a day. So eat your daily rainbow of fruits and vegetables. So these colors are really good indicators of the different types of nutrients that are in the fruits and vegetables. Dark green, bright yellow, and deep red fruits and vegetables are a rich source of antioxidants. I'm sure a lot of us have heard that word before. It's kind of a buzzword right now, actually. I feel like we hear of a lot more things having antioxidants added to them, but it's really good to remember that our first how we want to get our vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, all of those things, we want to first try to get them in our diet, in our food that we're consuming. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, although there are supplements for some of these. But antioxidants, they keep the body healthy, and they fight off illness and disease. And they may also help keep our blood vessels healthy and free of fat buildup. Vegetables are really nutrient filled, and they're kind of a bargain. And what I mean by that is you get a lot of nutrients and you don't get a whole lot of calories. And you also get, you know, a lot of fiber and things like that. They're a good source of fiber, and most are lower in calories and carbohydrates. So you're getting a lot for what you're consuming. You're actually going to feel really full too if you eat a lot of vegetables. And remember, we're wanting our vegetables, especially the ones on half of our plate, to be non-starchy. 1/2 cup in most cooked vegetables, or 1 cup of raw vegetables, has about 25 calories. So that's not bad at all, especially when you have 2,000 that you're trying to work with. This is why the Idaho plate method, does everybody remember the Idaho plate method? Okay, great. I see a lot of head shakes. So just a reminder, the Idaho plate method is that my plate for diabetics specifically that has half of it full of non-starchy vegetables. So the Idaho plate method recommends filling half your plate with those non-starchy vegetables, and then it kind of puts fruit and dairy on the side. Remember, we talked about some vegetables being starchy vegetables, why we need to limit them, and how to look at carbohydrates in our diet. So those are all things we kind of talked about last time. So important vitamins, and I'm sure you all have seen these on lotion bottles and things that have been fortified or added to these into food, but a lot of our foods have these naturally occurring, and that needs to be our first option when we're trying to incorporate vitamins and minerals into our diet. Vitamins are important for people with diabetes just as those without it. Many people can get the vitamins they need from their food if they eat a well-balanced diet. However, those with poor diets who take certain medications or have certain health conditions can benefit from vitamin supplements. But remember, always check with your doctor before starting any kind of supplement. Vitamin A, D, and E, and K, A, D, E, and K, it's kind of a lot there, are called fat-soluble vitamins and can be stored in our bodies, okay? B and C vitamins are water-soluble and they must be replaced often. So water-soluble vitamins, whenever we urinate, they come out of our body, okay? So they kind of come out of our body pretty rapidly, so those are ones that we need to be really weary of only getting from supplements. Now, I've noticed that there's some chats here, so I'm going to kind of look up at the chat box real quick, if I can, and see what's going on. Oh, great. So it looks like one of our participants, if you're watching this live, had a salad today for lunch. And yes, that one from last slide looked very good. Moving on, so looking at vitamins A, C, and E, they are powerful antioxidants and prevent some of the cell damage that occurs in our bodies over time as food is absorbed and air particles that can cause disease and damage. Some say that they delay the aging process. So again, that's just what some people say. There's not like a study that says this is the fountain of youth, but they do help our bodies kind of do those processes more efficiently. So that's where they get that from. With diabetes, they can delay some of the damage that is caused by the extra glucose in our blood. So vitamin A, you've probably heard of this as like the vision vitamin, and we think about carrots a lot with vitamin A. So vitamin A does help with vision. It's found in deep orange or leafy green vegetables. So yes, carrots, but also spinach and sweet potatoes. These are good options. Because diabetics can damage the blood vessels in your eye, it's really good to get a lot of vitamin A. Vitamin E is an antioxidant and is found in vegetable oils. I do not start drinking your vegetable oil though. It's just found in there. But it's found in vegetable oils along with vitamin C. It helps heal wounds and keeps your skin healthy. Another important function for people with diabetes. So if you think about it, a lot of our lotions and things have vitamin E in them because they're so good for our skin. Vitamin D is often added to milk. So that's something I want to mention. Milk does not naturally have a lot of vitamin D occurring on its own. It's something that's added to milk. So vitamin D is often added to milk. It's called the sunshine vitamin. Have you ever heard that before? The sunshine vitamin? And you hear people say, oh, I feel kind of off today, I need to get out in the sun. So it's often called the sunshine vitamin because the body can make it from sun exposure. Something I wanted to mention here, and this really doesn't have to do with diabetes, but make sure you're always wearing sunscreen when you're going out in the sun. Protect your skin from the sun. We want vitamin D, but we also don't want a nasty sunburn that can lead to, you know, melanoma or other things like that. So yes, go out in the sun, enjoy it, especially while we still can, since it's summer right now. But remember to wear a sun hat or some sunscreen, or put some, you know, like sun protective clothing on. But moving on, vitamin D is found in enriched cereal products also, and it's important for maintaining normal blood levels of calcium and phosphorus. Doctors are finding that many of us need more vitamin D as we age, and vitamin D might be important for protecting our bodies from heart disease and some symptoms of diabetes. Vitamins of particular concern for people with diabetes also include B12, folic acid, and vitamin D. So make sure you're getting lots of B12, folic acid, and vitamin D. Moving on. Minerals for good health. So there are some differences between vitamins and minerals. Each of these minerals plays an important role in good health and controlling diabetes. Potassium is needed for cell function in the body and controlling blood pressure. Potassium is found in fish, many dark leafy vegetables, potatoes, and citrus fruits. I think of bananas all the time when I think of potassium. But remember, as diabetics, we also need to be watching how much of that fruit that we're taking or eating. Calcium and phosphorus are necessary for strong bones and teeth. Phosphorus also helps the body utilize carbohydrates and fats. It's important for people with diabetes. Now, calcium, we can think about our dairy products, our milk. Phosphorus is found in a lot of things that we would put in the meat category, so legumes, fish, different proteins like that. Magnesium helps maintain normal muscles and nerve function, keeps heart rhythm steady, supports a healthy immune system, which I think we all need that right now, and keeps bones strong. Several studies found that boosting magnesium levels in those who were low improved insulin sensitivity and reduced some of their risk for type 2 diabetes. Magnesium, where can we find it? It's actually in a lot of our seeds and nuts. Pumpkin seeds is a really good source of magnesium, and that's actually a really good snack, especially this time of year. So what foods come to your all's mind? So I'm going to ask you all a question, and feel free to type in the chat box. What food comes in your mind when you want foods that are rich in iron? So who can think of an iron-rich food? I think we could all use a little more iron. Meat, fish, liver, spinach. Those are all great answers. So red meats, fish, and poultry are going to have a lot of iron in them. Spinach does have iron in it. That's a good vegetable option right there. But remember, just because you're eating a red meat for iron doesn't mean that we're saying you also need a lot of saturated fat. Make sure you're picking those leaner cuts of beef if you're going to get a red meat like a beef. So we all need a little bit more iron probably. Iron is needed to maintain red blood cells, and when not sufficient, anemia will develop. Has anybody been told they're anemic before? You don't have to answer, but I'm just going to answer for myself. I used to donate blood a lot, and they said my red blood cell count was kind of low. So I wasn't in college a huge meat eater just because it was so expensive. But now I eat a lot more meat as an adult. But anemia is something, you know, it's not something you're stuck with forever as long as you start getting that iron into your diet. Another deficiency we have to look out for is B12 deficiency. Let's see here. Bone health. Okay, so now we're going to talk about calcium a little bit more in depth. Most common mineral deficiency in the United States is calcium and also iron. So those are the two top ones. Osteoporosis, a lot of us have probably heard that word before, is a painful and crippling disease that results when you do not get enough calcium. It causes the bones to become thin and can happen with age and happens most often in women. Getting enough calcium all through life, but especially during the growing years, is the best way to prevent osteoporosis. Some authorities think that getting enough calcium is also important in preventing high blood pressure and blood vessel diseases. Minerals and certain medications can interact with each other to prevent calcium being absorbed in the body. So it's important to talk to your doctor about how your medications interact with each other. A few studies show that metformin can cause an iron deficiency in long-time uses. Okay, remember this is just 1 or 2 studies. Always talk to your doctor before you quit or start any medication. This slide is showing 2 different bones. The one on the top over there is healthy bones, and the one on the bottom corner over here, that is bones with osteoporosis. So if you can tell, there's a huge difference here. There's a lot more holes in the bone that is afflicted with osteoporosis. It's not as thick. You see like more stringy, thin lines, and then the healthier bone, of course, is thicker with less of those small holes. Moving on to the importance of fiber. I think we all know fiber is important, but here's a few reasons why. Fiber is not a nutrient, but it's very important for your health, especially if you have diabetes, because it adds bulk to our food. It delays the absorption of carbohydrates, so we're going to absorb our carbs slower, especially sugars. Fiber can reduce the spike in our blood glucose after meals. It keeps our blood glucose levels closer to normal and may even delay symptoms of type 2 diabetes. Another benefit of eating a high fiber diet is that a high fiber food can make you feel full, and you can resist eating more food than you need. So have you ever been halfway through a meal and you realized that you were full and you ate too much, that you went past the point of feeling good full to kind of icky full? So if you're chewing more slowly and you're also incorporating those good fibers into your diet, they're going to help you feel full faster and keep you kind of from going over that edge of being too full. Fibrous foods can also take longer to chew. Like I said, we need to make sure we're chewing our food. That's something else we do a lot, especially in our culture, is we eat way too fast. So chew, give your brain the time it needs to give the signal between your brain and your stomach that you've had enough to eat. Some fiber-rich foods reduce the absorption of cholesterol in the bloodstream, which can decrease the risk of heart disease, particularly important for people with diabetes. Recent research published found that women who ate higher amounts of fiber had lower marks for vascular inflammation. This type of inflammation increases the risk of heart attack, stroke, and possibly life-threatening diseases such as cancer and others. And fiber has long been known to keep our bowels healthy, so healthy bowel movements because of fiber. Although there's still a lot of studies done on this and it's somewhat controversial, some studies have shown that people who eat more fiber are at a lower risk for certain types of cancer, especially colon cancer. And I think that's just because, you know, it keeps our bowels moving in a healthy way, so stuff's not just sitting there. So I want to show you this graph of the role of fiber. So you see right there on our x-axis is time in minutes, and then on our y-axis, which is going up and down, that's the blood glucose. And then we have 2 different lines here, a red line and a blue line. This graph shows how eating fiber can help balance body glucose values throughout the day, so not just when we're eating, as well as reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes or worse symptoms of type 2 diabetes. The body is better able to handle small peaks in blood glucose because less insulin is needed when fiber is present in the diet than when large peaks of blood glucose occur where less fiber is present. The blue line is the meal with fiber and the red line is a meal without fiber. The peak for both is at 30 minutes, but the peaks are very different in height. So you can see the one with fiber, the peak only went halfway up to where the one without fiber went as far as the glucose spike in the blood, and then it even tapered down further when it did come back down. So again, before making any major adjustments to your diet, talk to your doctor, but fiber is a really important part of a healthy, well-balanced diet. So sources of fiber, and we can see here there's some beautiful bread and rice, but let's talk about all these sources of fiber. So fiber is found only in plant-based foods. We do not get fiber from our meats. It's not found in animal-based foods such as meat, poultry, and eggs. A very small amount of fiber is found in some dairy foods, but again, this isn't our #1 option for fiber. And no fiber at all is found in fats and oils. One of the best sources of fiber is dried beans and legumes. Nuts and seeds are also great, along with fruit skins and vegetables. So when you're eating an apple, the fiber is going to be on that skin, okay? So that's just something important to remember. And then a lot of our vegetables are very fiber rich. So if you are trying to watch how much bread you're eating for whatever reason, our non-starchy vegetables are another really good source of fiber that's naturally occurring. So this is a picture of a grain. We have the bran, the endosperm, and the germ. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these areas and how different brands use the grain differently to make different products, I guess is the best way to put that. Eating whole grain breads, pastas, cereals, and other grain-based products is a great way to add fiber to our diet. Let me emphasize there, whole grain, okay? When food companies manufacture different grain products, they often remove the bran and the germ. So that's that outer layer, and then the germ is that small orange speck there on the side, kind of toward the bottom, okay? So that is what the companies are removing, and they're making their grain product with the endosperm, which is that middle section, okay? So all that remains is the endosperm. The endosperm holds very little fiber and only small amounts of vitamins and minerals. So they're only keeping the part that doesn't really have fiber and not a lot of vitamins or minerals. The endosperm of the wheat grain is used to make white bread and white pasta. Okay, so that's where our white breads come from, right there. The endosperm of the rice grain is what we refer to as white rice. So white rice is also a grain that's been stripped of its bran, okay, which is that outer layer. Foods made with 100% of grain, bran, germ, and endosperm, such as 100% whole wheat bread, brown rice, and 100% whole wheat pasta, provide much more nutrition to the body, as well as more fiber, often with similar calories to the white version, okay? So your whole grain bread versus your white bread is going to be similar in calories usually. Again, though, look at that food label. Your best bet to buy products that list whole grain or whole grain flour as the first ingredient, okay? So this is, again, where our food label comes into play and why it's so important that we have those food labels available to us. So you need to look at the ingredients list and make sure that whole wheat or whole grain flour is the first ingredient, okay? This is the only true way to see if it actually is whole grain, because all the ingredients are listed by the weight that they are in the food. So if the grain is second or third, there's really no way to know if 49% of the product is grain or if 1% is grain, okay? So I'm going to say that again. If it is not the first ingredient, which means it's what is mostly made out of, if there's something else before that, there is no way to know if the actual whole grain is the first ingredient, if it is the majority of it, or if it's 1%, because that's all based on weight. So maybe it's the third ingredient, but 90% of the weight was the endosperm flour from the, you know what I'm trying to say? So there's no way to know what percentage. You can know the weight, you know it weighs less than this, but what does that mean? We really don't know. One thing to watch for is how food companies often package and label things to make them seem healthier or whole grain when they're in fact not. Look out for words such as stone ground or multigrain, because these do not necessarily mean that it's a whole grain bread, okay? So multigrain can be good because multiple grains are used, but let's look at that ingredient list. What's the first thing that's listed, okay? So look for that whole grain. I know a lot of food labels too, they can use the enriched flour that's made of the endosperm as their number one. And then their number two could be something like dried oats, which is also considered a grain. And then maybe they add in a few other things to it, like poppy seed, which, you know, and some other little, and then the very last thing down there is going to be whole grain that they sprinkled on the top, maybe. So just kind of look out for those labels, make sure it says 100% whole grain, or it says whole grain, and then look at your ingredients list to make sure that that really is the first ingredient listed. How much fiber do I need? Okay, so I have a little chart here. Females 31 to 50 need at least 25 grams per day. Females 50 and over need at least 21. Males 31 to 50 need 38, and males 50 and over need at least 30. Okay, so it's just a good little chart there. We sent out the PowerPoint, so that's something that you can reference. Fiber content of food is listed on the nutrition facts label under carbohydrates. While fiber is often found in food classified as carbohydrates, it is not often absorbed by the body and is excreted. Remember that fiber is also found in vegetables, fruits, seeds, nuts, and legumes, okay? Now, somebody earlier talked about meal planning. We're going to talk a little bit more about meal planning today, so I'm really excited to see that you all have really listened to this part of our discussion over these last few weeks. Let's look at how we can put together all that we have covered thus far. Most people plan their meals thinking about food rather than nutrients. The Idaho plate method, or the plate method, or even when we're talking about people who are non-diabetic, the My Plate, is a good place to start. Five food groups are included. As we look at these food groups, we want to think about where the carbohydrates are found, keep fats and sodium low, and include lots of vitamins, minerals, and fiber into our diet. So again, that's just a reminder about what that Idaho plate method looks like. So now we're going to apply a little bit of what we've learned. So let's look at some real food. How does this meal compare to the plate method? Let's sort this meal into food groups, and what are we missing? So just take a moment here in the chat. I just want to hear what you have to say, just some little notes of things you've noticed. Are either of these plates or both of these plates good choices for diabetics? Is there anything on the plates that maybe isn't the best choice, or something that really stands out to you as, wow, I'm glad they included that? Any just notes that you want to make, or maybe even a way that you would improve it to make it more balanced, or a way that you would change it to make it fit your diet. So I know I'm throwing a lot out there at you, but I just really want you to just look at these two plates and kind of analyze them and take a moment to make some notes about them. And I see some people typing. If you're watching this on Facebook after it's been recorded, please feel free to make any comments you would like in the comment section about either of these plates, because Mandy and I will be looking at those, and we want to know what you have to say as well. Bottom one has a lot of starchy veggies. Yes. I see 3 potatoes on it. I see a lot of typing. Too much starch on the bottom plate for sure. The top plate would be good with just one burrito. Yeah, that very good there. Looking at the portion size, that's great. Maybe you could have one now and then one for lunch tomorrow if you don't want the whole thing all at once. That is a lot of carbs. Good notes. What would be a good replacement instead of using the burrito wraps? Is there anything else you could do? Top one looks better. Lettuce, yeah, lettuce wrap, that would be good. You could even, if you didn't have a lettuce wrap available, and let's say you were just kind of out somewhere and that's what they had to eat, if you just even took that shell off and kind of mixed that together, you could have a salad, like just a big salad with chicken. Wrap it in lettuce. Is the bottom one also? Yes, the bottom one is a fatty meat. Replace it with maybe fish or something like that. Also, the bottom one, you can kind of still see that the skin is on the meat. So if you even just ate around the skin, that could help. Remove the gravy or the potatoes from the bottom plate. The meat serving size is too large on the bottom plate. Good one, Rhonda. Yes, it's huge. That takes up half the plate. It's like a whole hawk of something. Use lettuce instead of wraps. Ooh, there's a good one. Cheese wraps. That's a good one. Wrap it in some cheese. Great. Okay. Well, if anybody has anything else, feel free to put it in there. But that's a lot of really good points about both of these plates. So, yeah, everybody, I think, hit everything I was going to say. Something else I wanted to mention, though, talking about desserts. Remember that desserts, especially like when you're thinking of cake or something, is also a carbohydrate. So if you decided to have something sweet after this, remember to be checking your blood glucose, to be making a good dessert choice, or a better, I guess I should say, a better dessert choice, not just going for the quadruple chocolate chunk brownie fudge lava cake with 2 scoops of ice cream and the hot fudge on top. Let's look for a better choice, you know, maybe just a small piece of, I think just a really small piece of like angel cake with maybe a few strawberries or something like that. There's always a better option. But just remember that desserts also contain a lot of carbohydrates. So that was something else I wanted to mention. But other than that, I think everybody hit everything on the plates that I was wanting to discuss. So good job, everybody. Protein. Often when we plan a meal, we think first of the protein. So what protein are we going to eat? Protein foods can come from animals or plants. Proteins are often an important part of our body. They help us build and repair cells. They fight off disease and are involved in most metabolic processes. We cannot live without eating proteins. Animal proteins contribute many essential vitamins and minerals and are easiest for our bodies to absorb. They also contain a lot of saturated fats, which can increase our risk of heart disease. So really need to be careful about how much saturated fat we're getting. Seafood is a really good source of protein that has omega-3 fatty acids that contribute to good heart health. And they don't have a lot of those saturated fats like we talked about earlier. The advantage of plant sources in protein is that they usually contain fiber, low amounts of fat, no saturated fat, no cholesterol, and have less calories than the animal sources. So there's good and bad in both. Okay, so just make sure you're getting a balance. Animal sources of protein do not contain carbohydrates, so they're not included when counting carbohydrates. Plant-based proteins, however, do contain carbs, and they must be included, although they do not contain as many carbs as starchy vegetables, like that plate of starchy vegetables we just saw. So again, just putting it up there really big one more time, and so that way you all can have it kind of put in your brain. Whether it's animal or plant proteins, both are very important for a well-balanced diet for diabetics. On this, on the Idaho plate method, where would you put each of these types of proteins? So somebody wants to put in the chat. So an animal protein versus a plant protein, where would you put them on the plate? When we're choosing animal proteins, it's important to remember portion size. A serving of meat would be 4 to 5 ounces, about the size of an adult palm, or a little larger than a deck of cards. Let's see here. Anybody have an answer? Yeah, so just in the chat, if you want to tell me where you would put an animal-based protein on this plate, and then where you would put a plant-based protein on this plate. Oh, okay. Sorry. So on the diabetic Idaho plate method, where would you put an animal-based protein? Like, where would you count that in all your 5 categories? And then where would you count a plant-based protein?
Hey Olivia, maybe just give a few examples of like what a plant-based protein is. So that's like beans, tofu, things like that. For
Yeah.
those that are confused.
So they can both go under proteins. Okay, good. Yes, okay, good. So those were the other ones I was looking for. So they both can go under proteins depending on exactly what you're eating. And maybe Mandy wants to chime in again with a few more examples, but some can actually go under the plant category. And then some can even be included in the starch category depending on which one they are. So like our beans, legumes, seeds, nuts, fish, all of those different things could be considered in different categories. And what I was just kind of getting at with this plate method is to make sure that you tailor the plate to your diet and what you like, and just be mindful that things can fit in different categories. So don't stress out when you're meal planning. Put the animal-based protein where meat is, could also, yeah, and could be a plant sub for meat. Yes. Yep. Sorry, that was a little bit of a confusing question. Okay. Source of carbohydrates on the plate. So we have a lot of things pictured over here. The starch, vegetables, fruits, and dairy sections all contain carbohydrates. The challenge is to make choices that keep carbohydrate grams around 45 to 60 grams per meal. We have been looking at recipes and food labels in the past few lessons to learn how to determine how many carbohydrates are in foods. The starch section would include pasta, rice, bread, cereal, tortillas, or starchy vegetables like potatoes and corn. Choosing whole grains, that is a good point there. Corn, while it can be considered a grain, you need to include that with your starchy vegetables when you're meal planning. Choosing whole grains will provide additional fiber and nutrients. Half the plate should be non-starchy vegetables. You can include green leafy vegetables is a good one I think of when I think of non-starchy vegetables. Milk contains about 12 grams of carbohydrates per cup. Adults need about 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day, which is about 3 cups of milk or the equivalent. So it doesn't have to be a cup of milk. It could be yogurt, it could be cheese, anything like that. And then calcium is also found in green leafy vegetables like spinach. Whole fruit is a better choice than juice or canned fruit. It has fewer fruits. It oftentimes has fewer sugars because a lot of times those processed foods have had added sugars. Also, our whole fruits are going to be more high in fiber and vitamins and minerals usually. Desserts can be included in your meals, but they're often very high in carbohydrates, sugars, and fats. So you should not use your dessert to replace other foods and nutrients on your plate. So what are some roadblocks when we're eating well? Everybody has a different one, but these are a few common ones. So our old habits, you ever heard old habits die hard? Very true, especially when eating. And something else I want to mention, food is very like culture oriented and very social. So a lot of times if you're trying to completely change something you've grown up with, or even just adapt how you're eating around other people, it can be really, really difficult. And Mandy and I both understand that. I know even myself, I need switching to whole grain bread. That's one thing I think of. A few years ago, I switched over to the whole grain bread. And then I eventually went to the whole grain pasta. I had to slowly change those things. But even for me, that was difficult changing something that small, just because I was in that old habit of, well, this is the bread I like. This is what I always get. This is what I
Milk is
like.
another one that I think of a lot that,
Yes.
people have really struggled with changing. I know my dad to this day, he'll only drink whole milk, and like to even get him to drink 2%, it's, a struggle. But
Yes.
yeah, it's just hard. We know when that's the thing you're used to, it's really hard to just suddenly change that.
Especially when the taste is so different, I think. Um, yeah, that was a really good example. My brother to this day will only drink whole milk. And I switch between 2% and 1%. I usually just buy whatever has the longest date on the shelf. I can go either way. Um, I don't really do skim milk. I know that's another good option that's out there, but the 1% and 2% are also good. And that's something else that's important to mention here is make sure you're making those choices that you know you can maintain. Because if you can make little changes that you can make uh, last a long period of time, that's a lot better and healthier for you than making a drastic change for something that you can only make work for 2 weeks. So it's important to do those changes that you can actually practice over long periods of time. Now, again, want to say here, if your doctor tells you by this time next week you have to cut out XYZ, then please do what your doctor tells you to do and maintain that. But yeah, old habits are hard. Tempting places. So going out to like birthday parties or out to events or, I know a lot of times at work, even if I packed like a healthier lunch with me, some of the girls I work with will want to go out to eat. And, you don't want to turn them down. You don't want to be like, no, I'm going to sit here and eat my salad. So that can be another pressure. Time to prepare. So if you don't have a lot of time to cook, and I particularly think about back when I played sports, like in high school, I did not have time to go home and sit down with my mom and dad and have a salad and like some grilled chicken. It was get on the bus, grab some fast food, and go to your game. So if our families are a lot of very active families, especially before COVID and after COVID. Kids are usually in multiple sports, multiple clubs. A lot of parents are involved in several organizations, and sometimes they just don't have time to sit and prepare a meal. And that's why meal preparation and meal planning are so important, because it kind of helps combat some of that. The cost. So a lot of times, healthier food can be costly. It really can. Very much so. And sometimes I know you get your shopping cart full and it's, you get $100 worth of groceries. It doesn't go as far as it used to, especially if you're getting healthier options. So my recommendation there, and I'm just going to go on and say this, is, look for what your local store has on sale that week. Sometimes they're running specials on bananas, or maybe the grapes are like $2 off a pound this week. So really look for what's on sale for that week. And that actually can help you balance your diet a little bit better, because then each week you're getting a different fruit or vegetable and a different nutrient. Taste. So a lot of things that block people, or as a roadblock to people, is how they think food will taste sometimes, because sometimes they don't want to invest a lot of money into something they're not sure if they're going to like or not. But also, if you're just used to eating, meat and potatoes, and then all of a sudden somebody says, well, you need to try some salmon and some salad, that's a really big change in taste. So family pressure. So again, I already said it earlier, social pressure, culture pressure is another big one. Foods in different regions, have different meaning. They have different memories tied to them. So food isn't just food. It's a whole system of who we are. And I think that's important to remember, like not to get hard on yourself if you're trying to make these changes and sometimes you have a few setbacks, because it really is a lifestyle change. It's not just simply eating different food. It's just living your life a different way, really. So we understand that. Your team. Okay, we've mentioned doctors a lot, but you need to make sure that you have a really good support system, especially if you're making some changes. Your doctor is going to be vital to that. They're going to have a lot of medical advice. They're going to be able to help you tailor a diet that fits your specific needs, especially if you have diabetes. Because not only is every individual different, but every person's diabetes is different. So your doctor is going to be instrumental in making those plans for healthier lifestyle choices and practices. Registered dietitians are going to be great members of that team. They're really going to help you, plan meals. I know that we have a diabetes support group in Lawrence County, and they meet monthly. And we usually have a registered dietitian there to answer questions, because they can be a really great resource, especially if it's somebody coming in and they have a specific question. Like we have one gentleman, well, I need to lower my cholesterol. And not only is my diabetes bad, so what can I do? And a dietitian's a really good person to say, well, here's some suggestions I have that I know are related to that goal that you're wanting to reach. Certified diabetes educators are another really good resource. Nurses, nurse practitioners, and then even just other people who have diabetes, or even if they don't have diabetes, just a support system at home are going to be a really integral part of your team, because they're going to support you as you set goals for yourself, and they're going to probably hold you accountable to an extent, but also they're going to be encouraging, and they're going to help you develop these changes into healthy habits that become just your lifestyle. So managing your diabetes. We have talked about diabetes and how it's a balancing act. And I love that picture of the scale there. Getting just enough carbohydrates, calories, vitamins, minerals, and fiber while limiting harmful fats and while living your everyday life is not easy. Balancing meals, physical activity, and medications can also be a huge challenge. Increasing physical activity safely is also very important for everyone. So if you are trying to increase your physical activity, make sure you're doing it safely. Don't go out tomorrow and try to run a marathon if you haven't, ran between your couch and the fridge in the last 5 years. So, there's slow things, okay? Again, I'm joking, but if let's say that you're used to walking to your mailbox and back every day, let's say that that's something I do. I walk to my mailbox every day and I come back home. Well, maybe I can turn that into, I think I'm going to meet up with a friend, and we could probably walk around the block. I could do that. That's walking. I've got someone with me. Let's just walk around the block. And then that can turn into eventually maybe you want to jog around the block. And then eventually you can have more distance, higher speeds, things like that. So just remember to be safe when you're increasing your physical activity. If at any time you feel lightheaded or dizzy or strained or something like that, immediately stop what you're doing, and then make sure you talk to your healthcare professional. And you should talk to them anyway before you make any major changes to your exercising. But increasing physical activity, people with diabetes, it can help you lower your blood sugar. So it's got some really good benefits. Many people with diabetes need to use special medications such as pills or insulin. These medications need to be carefully matched with food in order to avoid very high or very low blood sugars. Please take them as prescribed by your doctor. Meal plans written with healthcare professionals can help you balance your meals, physical activity, and medications. If you do not have a meal plan that works for you, it might be time for you to revisit it and get a new one, with the help of your team, of course. Physical activity. So let's reinforce the importance of physical activity just one more time. Exercise is very important for an overall healthy lifestyle, and this is for anyone at any age in their life, okay? Always remember, though, to check with your healthcare team before you start a new exercise program. Guidelines suggest that to reduce the risk of chronic diseases in adulthood, we should engage in at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity, which is above usual activity at home or work for most days of the week. Many people can include more steps in their day. They can include maybe an exercise class, maybe even just getting home and doing a few pull-ups, or push-ups, excuse me. But many people can always include a little bit more. It's also important to move throughout the day, even if you exercise early or later at night. Otherwise, people who are generally healthy through their diet may have a lifestyle where they wake up, they sit at work, they get home, and they're so exhausted they sit on the couch and watch TV. So, you know, even if you're eating right, you're not getting that exercise element that's important for a balanced, healthy lifestyle. Each time you get up and take a walk, your body responds in very healthy ways, okay? So anytime you walk, it's going to increase your heart rate, it's going to get your blood flowing. Stretching is also very important. It's going to extend your muscles, maybe even muscles you didn't remember you had for a while. So it's going to really elongate the muscle. It's going to get the blood flowing. When you exercise, your body uses carbohydrates. So if you do not eat enough to balance your movement, you could end up getting, you know, lightheaded. It could make your blood sugar drop. So make sure that you always talk to your doctor. I know we've said that probably 5 or 6 times before you begin a new workout, especially if it's something that's really intense. So know your numbers. We're going to go over these again. I know we talked about this. I think in the first class that I taught, it was in class number 2, we talked about all of these numbers. Know your A1C, your blood pressure, cholesterol, your triglycerides, okay, that EGRF, okay, your fasting glucose, which is your glucose without eating, your eyes, your foot, your dental. Check on all of these things, okay? Remember that some of these are supposed to get done each time you go to the doctor, some of them are annually, but make sure that you kind of keep track of that. And one thing I really recommend is keeping maybe a small journal. And this is also good for meal planning, is keeping track of what you've eaten, but you could even keep track of all of these numbers. Okay, so that's just a little tip that I have, is maybe write those down. And then maybe if your doctor doesn't notice something, you can say, hey, the last few times I've been here, my blood pressure's been up. I noticed that my blood pressure was this, this, and this in the last 3 months, and that might be something they can look into. Just remember, blood pressure that is considered normal is less than 120/80. Hypertension, stage 1, is between 140 and 90 and 159 and 99, and stage 2 is 160/100 or higher. So that's just some numbers to kind of keep an eye on there. Your cholesterol, your LDL, needs to be below 130, but ideally below 100, okay? Your HDL above 50 for women and above 40 for men. The ideal, though, is above 60. Your triglycerides need to be below 150. Your fasting glucose between 70 and 110, okay? However, talk to your doctor, especially since you have if you have diabetes, because this goal is going to be different for each person. That's just the general recommendation, though, from the American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists. A1C, less than 7%, okay, and that's per American Diabetes Association. An A1C of 7% equals about 154 milligrams estimated average blood glucose. For people without diabetes, A1C of 4 to 6% is normal, okay? So just keep that in mind. And then your BMI, that's another one, your body mass index is another number, is between 18.5 and 24.9%. To calculate your own BMI, the formula is your weight in pounds divided by your height in inches, your height in inches, divide by that, divide by 703. Medications. Okay, so this is one of my last points. We're coming toward the end of our presentation today. I know it's kind of been a long one, so thank you all for bearing with me. It's our last one, so getting everything out there. So medications are very important, okay? Please take them as prescribed. I know I have a father that's a diabetic, and this was the biggest hurdle for us, was getting him to take his medications. Okay, just because your blood glucose becomes stable after you finish one bottle of your medication does not mean that you're cured. Okay, it just means that you found a balance between exercise, diet, medication that was working for you, and you need to continue to do that. Forgetting to take your medications at any time can actually be dangerous. Your blood glucose can skyrocket or it can drop, just depending on your diabetes. Other medications that your doctor has prescribed should also be taken as prescribed, but always make sure that you remind your doctor what medications are on to make sure that they don't negatively interact with each other. As we discussed, uncontrolled blood pressure can lead to heart disease or stroke. And this is very prevalent in people with diabetes. Keeping cholesterol in the normal range and taking your medications is very important in preventing these deadly side effects. Control of diabetes can change over time, requiring a change in medications. A large number of people with type 2 diabetes end up on insulin. It should not be considered a failure of control on your part at all. Sometimes these things just happen. Individuals may be wearing down, some of your blood vessels maybe are wearing down or some other things. This can just be your body's change over time. So as long as you're doing, what you're supposed to do, don't get down on yourself. If you end up having to take insulin, it happens to a majority of people. So now we're going to talk about long-term goals. So we've talked about short-term SMART goals every single week, but now we're going to look at some long-term goals. We've set some short-term goals. Now let's think about where we want to be 3 months from now at the follow-up. Okay, so if you want to, you can type your goal. I'm not going to make you, but if you want to, you can type your goal in the chat of something that you would like to accomplish 3 months from now. And just to kind of remind you what our SMART goal steps are, I'm going to show them up here on the screen one more time. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So if you'd like to share your goal with us and you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and type that in the chat box. Again, if you're watching this on Facebook, recorded later, feel free to put it in the comments section. I think I see a couple of people typing. And even if you don't know exactly what you want your goal to be 3 months from now, maybe you could just even list some things that you've learned from this class that you want to apply by the 3-month mark, even if it's just one thing. Okay, we have some people here. Get my weight down by 10 pounds with better eating and exercise. Oh, that's great. I would like to add at least 30 minutes of exercise 3 times a week. Oh, these are great. Great, great, great. Okay, continue to share in the chat box if you would like, but I'm going to go on and show our recipe. Easy cheesy eggplant, and I actually have a picture of it on the next slide. So this is one of our Plated Up Kentucky Proud recipes. So you can find these ingredients in Kentucky. You're going to need 3 cups of cubed eggplant, 2 medium tomatoes, 1 large onion. You're going to need 1/4 cup of melted butter, 1/4 cup of applesauce, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of dried basil, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 8 ounces of shredded mozzarella, 1/2 cup of whole wheat breadcrumbs, and 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan. Sounds pretty good to me. And there's a picture of it. Oh, and we have another goal. My next doctor's appointment, discuss meds, when I should take them, and should I add or modify my supplements. Oh, great. Love that open dialogue with our healthcare professionals. So there's a picture of our recipe for this class, and I'll make sure that you all actually get a copy in the email of the recipe. If you're watching this on Facebook, you can comment below and I'll add a picture of the recipe card. So the next session in 3 months. We would like to know how you're doing 3 months from now. That will be at the end of November. I've already marked it off on my calendar just so I remember. So be looking for an email around the time of November 25th. It might be the Monday before that though, or maybe the Friday after. So just look for an email from us that week. It will be coming. During the follow-up, we will complete follow-up evaluations. Don't be intimidated by the word evaluation. It's not scary. It looks very, very similar to something that you've seen earlier. Let's see here. Check progress on your goals. So we're going to probably in that survey ask you, did you reach your goal? Did you set a new goal? What's something you took away from the class? Questions, comments, concerns, anything like that. And then if you complete the evaluation, when we receive that back, we're going to, on the evaluation, ask for your address, all that great stuff. You're going to get a free diabetic cookbook, okay? 100% free. There's no catch to you whatsoever. This is our gift to you for you guys being so awesome and for also completing that follow-up survey. So I saw a few more things in the chat I wanted to make sure I looked at before I ended the class. Does the plate have to be drained? I don't think so. You can just cut it up in cubes. So thank you, Mandy, for helping on that. Okay, so this is our last slide. It just says the struggle for becoming healthier is an uphill battle for millions of Americans, but it starts with you. You are not alone. We've already talked about 30 million Americans having diabetes, and then there's a lot of pre-diabetics also out there. Taking charge of your diabetes and working toward a healthier lifestyle begins with you, and you can do it. We know you can. At first, it may seem like an uphill battle, but the payoff for your health and your life will be very rewarding as you feel better and are able to more easily manage your diabetes and your lifestyle the more that you put what we've talked about into practice. So just some motivation right there. So that concludes our Dining with Diabetes series, the live series for this month. Thank you all so much for participating. I really enjoyed getting to know all of you. Mandy and I actually have some exciting plans for another class in October. So please be on the lookout for that. We would love to see all of you all back again, even though it's not diabetes related. You know, we would be very excited to see you also on that virtual program. Just thank you all so much. Your participation has been amazing. Everybody on here, I feel like I've learned something from you about diabetes. I'm always learning something from each of the groups that I teach. So thank you so much. Not to put her on the spot, but Mandy, is there anything you'd like to say since it's our last class?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Just thank you all for, coming to the class. Even though we're not able to do things in person right now, I think this did actually work out pretty well in the virtual format. In some ways, it maybe even worked out better. It was easier for people who maybe otherwise would have had to, been at work or couldn't come to the office. It's actually been really neat. And like Olivia said, it was also a learning experience for us. We've done a lot of virtual programs over the last few months, but I've never done anything like this. And I feel like it went pretty well. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for being a part of it.
Okay. With that, I think we're going to conclude the class and stop the recording here. But if you all have any questions, feel free to stay on and unmute your mic as soon as we finish up here. But thanks again.